What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my comprehensive Forma building guide for this month's Hall of Forms featuring ARCHANEA units. Because Desert Dean was the last added Grail unit, we now have 8 new skills in the Hall of Forms. So young Merric is easily the best unit out of this batch in my opinion because he's a windsweep mage and he can definitely help you a lot in certain matchup against tanks like Brave Hector, Fallen Edelgard, and even kill them even if they are plus 10 merge. I'll definitely be going over the damage calculations later on. But a big factor for this is definitely his weapon, Winds of Change. So this gives him -1 special cooldown and it also has effective damage against flyers. And he can easily get +5 attack and speed with this weapon and also full null follow-up. So this null follow-up built into his weapon allows him to run Windsweep in his slot B so that he can double attack through it and not really get counter-attacked. So this is definitely a big reason why he can have better matchup against a lot of these slower physical units that do not have null counter disrupt, and he can definitely hit them pretty hard with his preferred special, Righteous Wind. So this is a 2 cooldown special which becomes a 1 turn special with his preferred weapon, and then you can actually pre-charge it by using Time Pulse. So this does scale off based off his speed, which is already pretty good, and it restores 10 HP to himself and all of the allies after the combat if it triggered. So having the speed scaling special, that too a low cooldown one, is definitely pretty nice. So young Merric, even as a one-off copy, is still going to be giving value and is going to be a solid unit. But keep in mind that just because he's the best out of this batch doesn't mean that you have to immediately go for him and spend your Forma Soul. The reason being is that Legendary Male Byleth is going to be upcoming on the Hero Rises banner, and that is going to be a very stacked banner. So you're going to be able to spark Legendary Male Byleth or just get him because of the color sharing. And Byleth is pretty much a better windsweep mage because he can hit a lot harder. Not only because he has got better attack than young Merric, but also because Sublime Heaven scales better against dragons and beast units. And there are definitely some common dragons and beasts in the meta. He can also be a bit more bulky than young Merric because Professorial Text actually gives him +5 defense and resistance, which young Merric's weapon does not give him. And Sublime Heaven can cut through the damage reduction skills, which is something that young Merric cannot do, and because of that, in many matchups he's going to be not able to kill the opponent, while Legendary Male Byleth can easily do that, and he also provides Drive Null follow-up to his allies. So Drive Null follow-up is definitely a really unique support which a lot of units can appreciate who do have good speed. And young Merric does have that advantage of not being a water-locked unit, so you can use him anytime in Ether Raid's defense without any penalty. And the 10 HP healing is pretty nice, but overall I feel like Drive Null follow-up is a lot more unique of a support skill. So if you have Legendary Male Byleth, then you might not have the most incentive to go after Forma young Merric, but it's definitely up to you to decide if you do value him in your barracks and if you're going to be pulling for Legendary Male Byleth or not. But if you're going to be building up Forma Merric, then he already has a pretty good base kit, but we can definitely make some adjustments to make him even better. And the first one that you can do is have attack speed ideal. So this has amazing synergy with Windsweep because ideal skills want you to be at full HP, and it's pretty easy for him to be at full HP by using Windsweep. And that is really needed for young Merric, especially at Unmerged because he does not have the highest attack stat, as you can see. Attack speed unity is also an option that you can run, and it does help you versus debuffs, but attack speed ideal is going to be the more popular option I think. And his slot B already has Windsweep, so we can just pick up a premium skill like Lull Speed Resistance or Special Spiral. So Lull Speed Resistance is going to be helping you nuke harder, and you're going to be running Windsweep most of the time, but it doesn't really hurt to have a premium skill as we're getting this Forma. Special Spiral is definitely an option if you're going to be using him in the in-game content with an AoE build. So that could be done, and you can definitely have an alternate build by having Special Spiral. And finally, the most important slotsy skill for him is going to be Time Pulse, because this pre-charges his Righteous Wind, and he really depends on his special to do a lot of the damage, especially against the tanks which are going to be having the guard effect. So front loading his special is going to be really important so that he can do a lot of damage to those units, and also just one-shot units before they live and counterattack and kill young Merric in many situations. So this is going to be the ideal build for young Merric. Even though he does have Righteous Wind, you can still try and get Ruptured Sky because Forma units always come with their base kit, so you might as well get a premium special. So I'm just going to be going over some of the common Farsafe tanks and some of the common units. So in these simulations, I'm just using a unmerged Forma Merric with 5 Dragon Flowers and +6 attack buff. And as you can see, +10 Fallen Edelgard does die, but keep in mind that if this +10 Fallen Edelgard has Distant Defense Sacred Seal or any kind of resistance buff, then she's able to survive, but still with only few HP. So these are just the simulations, but they should give you a good idea of how young Merric might be useful to you. The next simulation is against Brave Hector, who's a really common Farsafe tank, especially after the release of Duo Chrom. And the first build, which is the common Special Fighter Bonfire Brave Hector build, just dies even if he's at max investment, fully buffed, plus Resistance Ivy and Summoner supported. That build just vanishes even at +10 merge. However, a +1 Brave Hector with Hardy Fighter and Deflect Magic Seal is going to be surviving, and it is going to be taking you 2 combats to actually kill him. And a lot of Farsafe Brave Hectors are going to be running Hardy Fighter because it provides you the way of surviving Lethality Yuri, especially in a lot of really hard-hitting units, and it also helps him in the Ninja Korean matchups. So yeah, +1 Hector dying with that Special Fighter build, but as much as +1 Brave Hector with Hardy Fighter build surviving young Merric. Ascended Fjorm is a pretty common Farsafe tank as well, and she does have Null Counter Disrupt in her weapon, so your Wind Sweep doesn't really do anything against her, and Ice Mirror is going to be making quick work of Merric. But if in any way she's not able to have her Ice Mirror pre-charged, maybe if you just attack her at start of a map, or maybe if you Pulse Smoke her down, or you attack with a guard unit, then he barely one-shots a +1 merge Ascended Fjorm. So this matchup is definitely really tough for young Merric. Because even if this kind of Ascended Fjorm has got some mythic buffs and stuff, then she's going to be able to survive and just charge up her Ice Mirror for the next hit. And the final simulation that I have is against a more recent Farsafe tank that is emerged, and that is going to be Ascended Idun. So Ascended Idun does not have the auto follow up of Brave Hector, but she does have that adaptive damage and she can definitely hit pretty hard. Now it's worth noting that Ascended Idun can definitely kill young Merric most of the time, but if she's not stacking enough attack, then young Merric can just survive and just kill her with another Righteous Wind on his second attack. And as you can see, plus an Ascended Idun who's prepared for something like a Ninja Korean with Deflect Magic Sacred Seal, she's not able to have enough damage output, and young Merric survives and kills her. But this kind of +1 Ascended Idun with Glimmer and just Farsafe is able to kill him. Hardy Fighter is going to be a huge nuisance for young Merric. So mages that can front load their special are going to be having trouble against these Aegis, Ice Mirror, and these kinds of Hardy Fighter armor units. So after Ascended Fjorm, the things have definitely changed for these kinds of Windsweep mages. But nonetheless, young Merric is still pretty strong, as you can see, just taking out some of the other builds which do not have Hardy Fighter. Young Marth is pretty much the second best option in this batch as well, and he's going to be a quite popular pick because his rerun is going to be happening around April, and he's the 4-star focus unit of his seasonal banner. So if you're trying to +10 merge him, then getting him as a Forma unit is a way to save some orbs on his merges, and also lets you get a lot of premium skills, which young Marth definitely needs to shine in this metagame. So being a sword infantry unit, there's a ton of competition, even from his older self like Legendary Marth and Brave Marth, but Rapier does provide him with a bit more unique playstyle, so it is effective on armored and cavalry units, and it does have Vantage built into it. So his bread and butter is basically going to be abusing that Vantage and just retaliating with his Hero's Blood special, which is his exclusive special at 2 cooldown, and it does scale off based off his speed, and also grants +4 to all of his stats and all of his allies if it triggers. So this preferred special definitely provides you with good damage and also a bit of utility and support. So a one-off copy of young Marth is really not going to be doing much in face of a lot of the modern sword infantry units which you can get, but he's basically going to be an option if you're trying to +10 merge him from the upcoming young banner, or if you already have +10 merged him and you want to get some premium skills to just modernize him a bit. So this is definitely going to be more for the people who do plan to merge him at some point. So the first build is definitely a bread and butter build which utilizes his strength, and that strength is using Vantage in his weapon and using Special Spiral. So you have probably seen Ares, and that's pretty much what Marth can do, but with effective damage and as an infantry unit. So there are definitely some weapons that you can try and get, because Rapier is going to be useful most of the time, but still an all-trained weapon doesn't really hurt if it's possible. Winter Rapier is actually a pretty nice option, and then Unbound Blade and Pledged Blade are some of the other rare swords. Distant Pressure is going to be a pretty nice slotty skill that you can run because it does give you the chip damage, which goes well with his Vantage, and it also helps him with Hero's Blood, which does scale off based off his speed. So that extra speed definitely helps you, and Distant Pressure speed is actually active in the player phase as well, so it does provide him that speed. And then Distant Stance is also an option if you do dislike the recall damage of Distant Pressure. A lot of people really dislike it, but I feel like Marth can function with Distant Pressure. Special Spiral is definitely going to be the way if you want to nuke really hard with his specials, but there are definitely other options like Null Counter Disrupt and Null Follow Up, which can definitely win him in certain matchups. But I would say that after Ascended Fiarm, the kind of Wind Sweep mages and the Dazzling Staff units and stuff like that have definitely decreased in the quantity, but still, Null Counter Disrupt can certainly help you in those matchups. For Slot C, Joint Drive Attack or Joint Drive Speed are going to be the optimal choice. If you want to invest into him heavily and at max investment, then you can definitely run him with a tank build. And this kind of tank build at max investment can try to use the damage reduction skills so that he can actually tank some hits in case he fails to kill them. And this build can also be useful in Arena if you're trying to just use him there, as there are definitely going to be a lot of cavalry and armor units. So Spurn could be run in a slot B if you want to get the damage reduction, and it also gives you the true damage, which goes well with Vantage. And Null Follow-Up is also a very good option that you can run with this kind of max investment build. And honestly, Null Follow-Up is probably going to be winning you a lot more matchups in Arena, especially against a lot of the armor units that have follow-up negation. So Null Follow-Up does help you stop that. Spurn does give you the damage reduction for sure, but Null Follow-Up in my opinion could also be obtained from the Divine Code section. There are like 4 units with Null Follow-Up there, and Spurn is definitely the more rare option, so that's why I have it showcased here in the build. But Null Follow-Up is definitely no slouch and does help him in a lot of matchups. If you're running the damage reduction skill, then Joint Drive Speed can definitely help you get that extra speed because, young Marth is fast but not insanely fast, and his rapier weapon doesn't really give him extra speed, so that's why it definitely helps. With Ascended Marita's banner, we do have Vital Astra, which is inheritable to infantry, sword, lance, and axe units, and young Marth can definitely have that special over Hero's Blood, get the damage reduction while also running Special Spiral, so you can pretty much have best of both worlds if you're able to get that. So definitely plan and see if you're trying to give him Vital Special anytime soon, then try to get Special Spiral because it will have good synergy with that special. Young Caeda is a sword flyer, and she's definitely pretty unique because of the effective damage that she has against weapon types, and she also has effective damage against armor units. But just like Legendary Caeda, she does have the same issues, and she also has much less attack than Legendary Caeda, so she's going to be failing to one-shot a lot of units, and a lot of tanks are going to be extremely bulky or they have damage reduction, so not always she's going to be able to one-shot them despite the effective damage through the Vantage built into her weapon. So that is the shortcoming of young Caeda, but definitely a unique sword flyer because of the full HP Vantage built into her weapon and also the effective damage. She also has Belief in Love, which is definitely fallen off a bit, I would say, because back when she came out, we didn't really have the Neotrace skills and stuff like that. So Belief in Love was pretty much the way of getting those debuffs, but now we do have the Neotrace skill that you can run in Slot B that just gives you 2 less debuffs, but also gives you the counter utility in the player phase. So you can definitely try and upgrade the build of young Caeda, even though she does come with Distant Counter already. She's a good unit, but as a one-off copy, she's not going to be doing anything too insane, and if she fails to kill the opponent, then she's likely dying because she does not have a lot of bulk and she's definitely quite frail. If you want to upgrade her a bit, then you can run Distant Stance in her slot A or have Distant Pressure. Unfortunately, Distant Storm is not present in this Hall of Forms because it is way too early. Legendary Caeda just released, so it's not going to be available just yet. And these are the 2 distant skills that you can basically run. And you can also get the Neotrace skill, which is the best premium option for Slot B because you're just trading 2 debuffs for counter utility in the player phase, which is definitely worth it. A rain skill is going to be amazing for her Slot C so that you can consistently get those debuffs on the enemy to do more damage. And if you don't just want to run a slightly better distant counter in your slot A, then attack speed catch 4 is definitely an option, and you can try and get that so that you can focus on your melee matchups and get more attack on Caeda for both phases. And you can definitely pair her up with a Farseer tank so that they can cover her for the ranged matchups while she can just focus on the melee. And Neotrace is of course going to be helpful here. Speed defense Neotrace does go well as we're trying to stack up speed and attack for this, and Dive Bomb could also be an option if you just want to have a player phase Caeda, but having that option of being mixed phase with a Trace skill and steep buffs is definitely pretty nice, so I kind of prefer that, but Dive Bomb is also an option which can be mentioned. Menace skills could also be run if you're not able to get a rain skill, as it will have good synergy with the cat skill, but usually rain skills are going to be preferred as they are consistent and they can be stacked up with the visible debuffs unlike the menace skills, and you can always get the buffs and the debuffs of the menace skills outside from maybe some kind of ally. And the final unit from this batch is going to be the babysitter of this batch, and that is going to be female Kris. So she is a lance infantry unit with Spear of Shadow as her preferred weapon. This gives her -1 special cooldown, and it also provides her with -5 attack, speed, and defense debuff on the opponent, and neutralizes any kind of visible penalties on herself. So back when Omni tanking was really popular, this weapon was really amazing on Kris, Shannon, and stuff like that, because in Ether Raids debuffs are really common, and as an Omni tank they could definitely function and take on a lot of teams. But now we have definitely progressed farther from that, and we have really hard hitting nukes, so you cannot really expect a +1 merge Kris to Omni tank or good Ether Raids defense team just like that. And over the time, female Kris has definitely faced competition from the likes of Legendary Dimitri, or even from Note, who is a really common and popular mythic. So she's not going to be super amazing at Unmerge as the one-off copy. So she does have Spurn by default, but if you're trying to get some other skills and premium options, then you can definitely try and get Ninja Naginata as a fun premium lance, which is definitely going to be helping you with quad attacking, and it does give you this kind of build that you can run in player phase. It's worth noting that you should not be running attack speed unity on your female Kris because it has really bad synergy with her Spear of Shadow, which already neutralizes the debuff. So that's why some other slotty options for her are going to be attack speed ideal, Surge Spyro, or attack speed solo. And if you have some merges and investment on her, then Distance Stance is of course an option. She already comes with Spurn, so that's why having Null Follow Up is going to be a really good alternate premium option, which can definitely help you in many matchups, especially when she is fast and she can make use of that. Time Pulse is going to be an amazing slotsy skill for her because Spear of Shadow does give her -1 special cooldown, and she can pre-charge 2 cooldown specials like Ruptured Sky and even Vital Astra if you do want to give her at some point. Obviously, Vital Astra is not going to be present in this Hall of Forms. It literally came out today, so that's not how it's going to be working. So this is the first build you can try and go for, but if you have some investment, then Distance Stance is definitely an option that you can run, or even Distant Pressure with Spurn, which can help you with this kind of damage reduction playstyle. And finally, if you do want to use her more as a player phase option for Gale Force, then Ninja Naginata Plus and Flashing Blade 4 can give you 9 true damage per hit, and she can also function as a Gale Force unit with this kind of weapon, and also with her default weapon, which already gives her a 4-turn Gale Force. So not a lot changes for her slot B and slot C, as you can see between these builds. It's all about how you want to use her, and that's pretty much going to be deciding what kind of slot A skill you want to go for. If you have some investment in her, then Distance Stance does work out, but if not, then the other options are definitely going to be there. So overall, this Hall of Forms is definitely a bit better than a lot of the ones that we have received before, because at least this one has got young Merric, who's still pretty good at Unmerge, and then young Marth is a pretty common merge project option, and a lot of people are going to be trying to finish him next month. And unfortunately, next month we're probably going to be going back to our regular schedule of Hall of Forms, which is not going to be that impressive for many people. So the first row is pretty much what I'm expecting. Shadows of Valentia does not have a whole lot of units from the seasonal banners, and there are not too many options that they haven't already used. They do try and put Divine Codes units every now and again in Hall of Forms. Valentine Conrad is present in Divine Codes Section 2, and then Renea could be a Grail pick, and Picnic Lucas was already given out as a free ephemera manual a couple of months back, so they also try and have that. There are not too many options that they can have in the colorless, and they are not really giving us any kind of healer, so that's why I'm not really expecting Picnic Silk or even regular Silk, so that's why Faye does have a pretty good chance of appearing either in her normal version or in her Valentine version. And always they want to have a mage on a Hall of Forms team. So for the first row, Renea could be the one, and then for the second row, we do have Cliff. There are not a lot of mages left in the Shadows of Valentia pool, so Cliff is going to be one of them, who did recently get her weapon refine. And then Dancer Barkut could be the dancer option, and then Katria could represent from the Divine Code section. Valentine Faye could actually be a pretty solid far save tank, but we'll see if they actually put her or not. So yeah, this is just my speculation for the next month. Let me know what you think about this Hall of Forms and come back to this video to see if I was right or wrong with my speculation. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, then make sure to share this video with your friends who are trying to build up any of these Hall of Forms. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using Super Thanks or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as having young Caeda, but not having Distant Storm in the Hall of Forms pool. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.